Yeah, live back in action, attacking your speakers from the field to the bleachers. This is the Power 32 podcast. Here we are, ready to rock and roll. I am the sports prophet, Jason Fearman, with my man, Mr. Primetime, 313, David Dale, in the house, ready to go for the hour of power. How we feeling today, my brother?
What up, though? How you doing, man? I'm like I said, I'm trying to stay cool up here. We're getting that high 80s and 90s with the 75% humidity. It's lovely weather if you like that type of crap, but unfortunately for me, I don't. So, but everything's been good, man. How's it going down there in sunny FLA?
Man, work has been busy, just trying to, make that money and keep the food on the tables, man, stuff like that. That's
I
how it
hear
goes.
you, man. I hear you.
That's how it
Story
is.
of our lives. Story
Yeah,
of our
life ain't
lives.
easy, man. This is too much to do. They had it way easier back in the day when they didn't have all this technology and all this paperwork and all this other stuff. I don't know. I feel like it was just a lot easier 5,000 years ago. It's like, all right, let's plant this over here. Let's move this brick over there, and everything is cool. I don't know.
Yeah. They almost made it like technology was supposed to make stuff easier, but the problem is that you got so many choices now. It's what they call the paradox of choice. It's like the more choices you have, the more bound you are to make the wrong decision. And so
Me off.
with everything going on, it's crazy out here, man. Who would have thought that 30 years ago you'd be able to do podcasts and speak to your phone, and people don't even use their phone for calls anymore. It's
I know.
funny.
Yeah,
They had a thing on TikTok real quick. They had it was one of the most overhyped things that you spend money on and you instantly regret it. Remember we used to pay money for ringtones?
Oh my gosh.
Remember
yeah.
that? And now and I put on it I don't even, now I don't even use my phone. It got like 31,000 likes just for that comment. It was insane. It's crazy how many people relate to little crap like that. But anyway, man, happy to be on the show, ready to rock and roll.
Yes, sir. NFL time, always on Power 32 podcast. And just a little heads up to everybody that when the season comes around, because we got NFL Thursday night at 8:30, that we're going to do our show at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So that change will be happening in, I don't know, maybe a month or so, maybe a little bit more. But we'll get there. But for now, we're still doing our 8 o'clock hour of power. And here we are ready to go.
Yeah, we don't want Roger Goodell in the NFL to get threatened by the ratings. So we're gonna kindly move our time slot up an hour, so give the NFL a shot at least.
Right, I know. We want some viewers on Thursday Night Football. So, we didn't want to take over the whole thing. You're right, Prime. I mean, that's what they are afraid of, and I understand that.
They fear us.
Yes,
fear the 32.
I love it. All right, well. We got 32 teams in the NFL, and we're going to hit them all today. We got the contenders, the pretenders, and the non-offenders, if you want to call them that, the guys who really you don't give a crap about. But before that, got some curious questions for you. So let's go through them quickly. And this one revolves around the Washington Commanders as a whole. First, with Terry McLaurin holding out. He's due almost $20 million this year. It's probably the right move because, God forbid, you get hurt, and that's why everybody wants that contract, and that's why nobody wants to be franchise tag. I understand all that. So do you think that he is good enough to start paying this guy like the other big-time wide receivers in the $30 million area, Washington, a team that can afford it financially, but is it worth it to them to do it?
I don't know. I think, I've on shows before, I've kind of expressed that Terry McLaurin, though he's a good receiver, I think he's just the best thing on the Commanders. Not sure how he would do on a team that had like a better number one or something like that. But having said that, I think he's still a very good wide receiver. I don't know if I'm the Commanders, if I'm ready to come out of $30 million a year for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he has leverage over the Commanders right now simply because they don't have anything else. You're not going to go into the season with Debo as your number one. And there's really, unless you're going to go Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, or somebody like that that's still in the free agent market, you're kind of, he's kind of got the Commanders up against the wall. So anywhere, maybe 28, 29 million, maybe he'll hit the $30 million mark. But I think it's good for him to hold out. Simply because, like I say, he's got all the leverage. He's like, what are you going to do better than me?
Yeah,
like exactly. Harbaugh, so who's got it better than us?
And what are you going to do?
Say, what are you going to do better than me?
what are you going to do for Jaden Daniels? I mean, you need to have as many weapons as possible for this kid for him to mature and proceed and progress in the NFL. And Terry McLaurin's got to be a big part of that. So I think they should pay him. I don't like the whole hold that situation. It looks bad on the organization. Obviously, players and teams do it all the time. So let's see if he gets his money. And the other wide receiver on that team now is Deebo Samuel, which, he's there. He's practicing, doing his thing. He'll be there for camp, coming up in a couple of weeks and everything. But I don't know how big of a factor he is. Now, one thing I will say is that Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator, likes to run a lot of screens, which Deebo Samuel's really good at, obviously. Right. So maybe that does help out. But as a 49er fan and a Deebo Samuel fan, he just doesn't seem to be the same. So, again, having Terry McLaurin there is so important, as you mentioned, because I'm not sure how much Deebo gives you.
Well, and two, you kind of hit it on the head. You really don't want to take a step back if you're the Commanders. You want to kind of keep the momentum going. And I think if you have Terry McLaurin there, it's the whole familiarity thing. It's the security blanket, and it's just the continuity and the chemistry, which is the most important thing in the NFL, especially when you got a young quarterback going into his second season. You don't want him to experience the dreaded sophomore slump. So if you're the Commanders, you pretty much you're in a position where you got to pay him, because Deebo, like I say, Deebo's not the Deebo of 3-4 years ago.
If there's no Terry McLaurin, there could very well be a sophomore slump. So again, he's got all the leverage, like you said, right there, McLaurin in that situation. Deebo is a good piece to have, but he's not your number one guy, and you don't want him to be that number one guy. Just doesn't fit. I want to ask you if you think Sam Darnold is going to last the entire season as a Seahawks quarterback, because I tell you what, I don't. I mean, didn't they draft Jalen Milroe?
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that they did that for a reason, and that Sam Darnold's really more on a 1-year contract right now because they can null and void it after it. Again, I don't know how all the dynamics of this part of it works, but Sam Darnold really is more on a 1-year contract. And if they're not playing well, which I don't think that they're really going to play well, because I don't see them having a whole ton on offense. I mean, yeah, they have a decent running game with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Now you add Cooper Kupp to the mix. He's not as good as he used to be, but JSN is a really good wide receiver, obviously. But Sam Darnold, I don't think, can lift a team like that, although they have a really good defense. I don't know. Where do you see Sam Darnold in week 11, week 12?
That's an interesting question. I think that if they're playing, the problem that the Seahawks are facing is that the Niners are going to get better. They're not going to have a repeat, I don't think, of how bad they played last year. The Rams, everybody that tunes into the show knows how I feel about the Rams. The Cardinals are always that X factor. And when I look at the Seahawks, I look at them maybe as an 8-9 win team with or without Sam Darnold. So if you start going into the tank early, is that when you decide to pull the trigger on and just throw Jalen Milroe in there? But you've also paid, I'm not sure. I forgot how much of the money was guaranteed. I think it was all guaranteed, wasn't it, for Sam Darnold?
I don't think it was all guaranteed. I thought maybe $80 million of it. He's getting like $33 a year.
So I mean that's a lot of money. And but Sam Darnold, if you're the Seahawks, you're hoping that you kind of catch some leftover lightning in a bottle, where Sam Darnold can have a continuation of what he was last year, minus the playoffs and minus that Lions game in the last game of the season. But I could see, I agree with you. I see a world where week 10, week 11, Seattle's, 3-6 or something like that. And they just say the hell with it. They're not going to win the division anyway. They're not going to be one of our contenders, as we'll discuss later. So it's kind of like, hey, let's start thinking about the future right now.
Yeah, got to check out that defense, man. The defense is really good. I'll give them credit over there, but I don't know how many points they're going to be able to score. We'll see if the other players can maybe lift Sam Darnold and be the other way around. All right. An AFC team will win the Super Bowl next year. True or false? NFC won last year. Eagles won last year. You got your Lions, maybe your Vikings, Commanders, if you believe in them, the Rams. But,
I think, that's kind of like one of those way too early predictions. Right now,
of course,
I'm going to say an AFC team wins the Super Bowl. I say that simply because the percentages say that you got I would take here in a perfect world, I would take the Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs over the Eagles, Lions, and Commanders or Rams. So if you're going like a
Okay.
3-on-3 type thing, so
All right.
I truly believe that this has to be the year. We've talked about it before. This has to be the year that your boy, either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, finally break through and win a Super Bowl. So as of right now, as of July 26th at 8:20 or 8:10 p.m., I'm going to say it's an AFC team.
Okay. All right. Well, that'd be a good bet. Like you said, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs. Maybe you want to throw the Chargers in there. Why not? Saying up to McNiner. What's up, David McNiner?
What's
Saying
up,
what's good,
McKnight? How you
guys?
doing?
Let's fucking go. 49ers. Remember back in the day when the NFC dominated the Super Bowl? Yup, they won like 14 in a row from the late 80s to the 90s, man, until John Elway and those guys finally broke through and won for the AFC. But yeah, the NFC won a whole bunch of them in a row, man. They totally dominated the Super Bowl. Totally
Yes, they
did.
did. Those
Well,
are the good old days.
You said about has to be this year, has to be this. I think it has to be, maybe, possibly. I don't know what the words are. Will Caleb Williams be the first Bears quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards? It's never happened. They've been around for 384 years. They've never had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards. Never.
I don't hear. New coordinator.
Got Luther Burden now.
He's
Roman
got. They
Doomsday
got.
was second
I'm
year.
going
DJ
on
Moore.
record to say on this show that the Bears roster scares the hell out of me if everything falls the way it should. You know what? Gun to my head, I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
You got Burden. You got a Doomsday. You got Moore. You got Loveland. You got
Ben
Komet.
Johnson.
You got Ben Johnson. You got DeAndre Swift. You got. I mean, as far as the weapons, you went out. You bought an offensive line. You bought some good players on defense. When they already had a really good defense, well, a decent defense. I would say yes. I'm not going to say he's going to light it up for like 4,500 yards, but there's enough talent in that receiving core with the five guys that I mentioned for him to go out there and kind of put on a show. It's going to be, my thing with him is going to be how quick he picks up Ben Johnson's offense. But I think Caleb Williams, I think he's been working really hard during this offseason from what I've been hearing. So
Okay.
I'll go out on a limb and say yes.
All right, there you go. Could be the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history. Caleb Williams over there.
That's crazy. How does a franchise? But you look at it though; they've never really had great quarterbacks. I mean, hell, they went 15-1 with Rex Grossman, dude. So I mean,
no, they weren't 15-1. They had a good record. They weren't 15-1 though. They weren't that.
No, they were no. I'm trying to think back at the time.
You think of Ben Roethlisberger in his first year. They went 15-1.
No. They had like a press conference. I'm trying to think. They were talking to Lovie Smith, and they kept asking him, "Who's your quarterback?" Oh, they were 12-1 at the time. He was like, "We're 12-1 with Rex Grossman as our quarterback." The reporter kept asking him, and Lovie kept saying, "We're 12-1 with Rex Grossman as our quarterback." So. But anything can happen. But the Bears, for something that never happened in the history of franchise, and 2025 is going to be a very interesting year in the NFL. So I'll go out on a limb and say right now, with all that talent in the receiving core, yeah, I think he'll do it.
All right, could happen. We got McNiner up here saying don't sleep on the Broncos. We'll find out if they're contenders or pretenders, but they have one of the best defenses in the league. The question is, can they score on offense? We'll answer that in a little bit. Let me ask you, Will, Ashton Genty, rookie, Raiders running back, lead the league in rushing.
The league? No.
Won't happen.
No, I don't think so. I think that you still got a lot left in the tank with Saquon. You still got that breakout season that I think is going to happen with Jahmyr Gibbs for the Lions as the carries for David Montgomery probably diminish, and that a lot of that will depend on if he stays healthy.
Yeah.
I also think that Derrick Henry might have one last good run left in him. So there's some really good running backs out there. Ashton Genty, he could be a 1,300 yard guy, and we know he's going to get the football a lot. And that's one of my biggest concerns. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm saying that I don't think he will, simply because, eventually he's going to hit that rookie wall. And, Pete Carroll's going to just give him the ball until the guy can't walk anymore. However, I do have concerns about the Raiders' offensive line and how well they'll be able to block for him. So if he does end up leading the league in rushing, it'll probably be a lot of it kind of on his own, because I don't have a lot of faith in that Raiders offensive line. So I'm going to go no on that one.
All right. Well, the kid can break a lot of tackles. I mean, he is a beast. He ran for like 2,700 yards in college or whatever it was, which was absolutely nuts. But this is the pros, so a different story and a different team. Maybe the worst team in that division when you talk about the Oakland, Las Vegas, Los Angeles Raiders, wherever they play now. Anyway, we'll go through a couple of more over here real quick. Travis Hunter, will he be nominated for Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Well, the problem with that is that he's not going to be. I don't think he'll play enough on the offensive side of the ball to be really taken seriously for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I do see a world where he could have like a Sauce Gardner type rookie year, where he's really, really good on defense. But the problem is when you have these two-way type players, the dreaded word you hear is packages. We'll have a couple packages for him. So that tells me they might end up, they'll line him up probably in the beginning, maybe 5-6 times a game. And of course, he's not going to get touches every single time he's on the field on offense. But I think he'll have a bigger impact on defense. I think if he's going to win any Rookie of the Year type award, it'll be on defense.
Yeah, you see now, that's the thing. They're having him play more offensive snaps in camp. Now, is that for now while he learns the defensive playbook more? I don't know. We'll see. But I agree with you. He should be playing defense more than offense. All right.
And two, I think defense, and this is no offense to all my defensive-minded people out there, defense is easier to pick up. The problem he's going to have is dealing with some of these receivers and the size that they have in the league. So the first few weeks, you'll probably see him go through some growing pains, but I think he's a good enough athlete to where by the end of the season, he'll be in serious contention for like Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Well, look, again, Jacksonville didn't go all the way up to number 2 and get rid of all those draft picks for nothing, man. They're going to play him on offense and defense. It's a matter of how much wear and win. All right, so moving through this a little bit more because we want to get to the contenders and the pretenders, and we don't want to go for 3 hours on the show. Kirk Cousins will be traded by Thanksgiving. True or false?
Yes.
What team do you think he would go to? Can you pick out a team right now that, like, I don't know, a quarterback gets hurt or something like that? They go down and say, oh, man, we need to bring in this guy last. Like, God forbid, honestly, I could see the Rams, Matthew Stafford, because he's older and frail, and if he gets hit, I don't know, I worry about him. If he goes down, I can see the Rams going after Kirk Cousins.
I can too, and a lot of it, Jay's got to do with I don't have it in front of me right now, at least on this page. Who's got the money? Because I believe whoever signs him is probably going to have to, even if Atlanta decides to eat a lot of that contract, which they probably will have to. It's just fitting him under the cap. If I had to pick a team right now, it's kind of difficult because you're kind of looking, you're more the prophet. That's why they call you the prophet, looking into your crystal ball. It's like, who's going to be, let's say, like, use the magic number like week 11 or 12. Who's going to be in contention around that time? You're a surprise team that be like, you know what? We're just like maybe a quarterback away from, making some noise the rest of the season into the playoffs. That's a hard question, man. I could see him going, if he's still just about the money and wants a starting job, I could see him going to a team like the Raiders. I could see him going to the Rams, but he'd be backing up Stafford. And if you're going to go that route, I would, if you're the Detroit Lions, with that revamped offensive line, there's a possibility that Jared Goff, you talk about guys getting a little older, so there's a possibility he could end up with a team like that. But all things being equal, don't be surprised if like a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of kick the tires, just because they're not confident in what they're going to get out of Aaron Rodgers, at least in my opinion.
Man, no. They got Aaron Rodgers. That's it. That's what they were waiting for. They're not going down the Kirk Cousins route. The only way that would happen is if Rodgers gets hurt, and that's to the point of the fact is that Kirk Cousins would have to go to a team that would actually be a contender. No middle-of-the-road team, Cleveland Browns, I don't know.
The Colts or something. No.
They're not going to go ahead and take him. It would be a team who would be in contention and say, all right, we need a competent quarterback to take us through over here and get us to the next level if we want to actually win this season and maybe catch lightning in a bottle. So will that happen? No, I don't believe in Kirk Cousins at this point. And I told you last year, well, not you, but I told everybody else. I think you probably heard it also. but that the Atlanta Falcons are not going to be any good with Kirk Cousins, and that was a total mistake. So let's see if Michael Penix does any better.
But to your point, though, Jay, all the contenders have quarterbacks. So if he'd be,
but no, my point is if they get hurt. If they get hurt,
he'd be waiting for somebody to go down, and then the most likely of all the quarterbacks. I mean, as we get into our contenders and pretenders, it probably shed a little more light on it, but it would be Kirk Cousins is going to be like the one to watch. There's going to be like a Kirk Cousins clock or something like that as the season goes on.
I agree with that. That's exactly what I'm saying. He's not going to go to a team and back up another quarterback. He's going to go to a team and start because the quarterback got hurt or is playing awful or something like that, but most likely getting hurt. And unfortunately, that happens every year. So I would.
Steve-O says the Vikings. A reunion.
Going with a couple of things. Detroit falls off hard schedule, he's saying, and don't sleep on the Steelers. He's liking Pittsburgh right there. And the Vikings he's laughing at. I don't know. I like Minnesota, but we'll get to contenders and pretenders. We're coming up on that right now, but I got one more for you before we get to it. Does Micah Parsons deserve to be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL? Given his age, how much Myles Garrett makes, the Cowboys, all that, everything into it.
Clint Eastwood had a line in Unforgiven when one of the little young guy that he was with shot a guy in the outhouse, if you've seen that movie at all. And he said that guy, he's like, he deserved it. And Clint Eastwood said, deserves got nothing to do with it. I think in this case, excuse me, I think deserves got nothing to do with it. I think it's the Dallas Cowboys. If Jerry Jones is the type that he always wants to be the best and the first at whatever, and having the highest paid defensive player in the league, I think, subconsciously or not, that might mean a little something to Jerry Jones. They don't want to lose Micah Parsons by any stretch. So, yeah, I whether he deserves it or not, I don't know. I would say no, gun to my head, but he plays for the Cowboys, so there's a very strong likelihood that they make him the highest paid defensive player in the league.
A ton of money, man. They'd have to go north of $40 million.
That's crazy.
Garrett, which is
crazy.
Really, when you're already paying Dak Prescott top dollar as far as quarterbacks go, and CeeDee Lamb with his contract, and he's going to want more money, obviously. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, but you got to pay the cornerstones of your organization. You draft CeeDee Lamb, you draft Micah Parsons, you draft Dak Prescott. Again, that was, in the fourth round years ago. But, these are your top players. So, you know what? If you draft them and they're playing well, then you got what you want out of them, and you want them to continue to play well, unless you think their best days are behind them. But, again, Micah Parsons still going strong. Anyway, yeah, so we'll see where we get to that and see if the Cowboys are contenders or pretenders as we are ready to rock and roll right now and get into that segment over here. This is what the show's all about right now, contenders and pretenders, or even non-offenders, teams that are like black. All right, we don't even give a shit about. But let's go through them division by division by division by division, starting with the AFC East. The Buffalo Bills are probably an easy one for both of us. Contenders, they got all the pieces. Keon Coleman maybe taking a step up this year. James Cook, I know he wants a new deal. If they have him and he's playing, that's a great thing. Big help to Josh Allen. They want to make sure the defense plays better. They drafted Maxwell Hairston at cornerback because they're a little bit weaker in the secondary, even though they picked up a couple of players on Tre'Davious White and whatnot. So I think the Bills are contenders, of course.
Yeah, I do too. And before we get too deep in this, the pretenders are not necessarily, in my opinion, teams that are bad. I think they're just teams that aren't ready because there's so many other good teams ahead of them that, that they're not ready. So they're not quite ready for prime time, if you will. So it's not necessarily that they're a bad team. They're a pretender simply because there's other teams ahead of them that probably have a better shot. So, but yeah, the Bills, that's a no-brainer. I absolutely think the Bills are going to be contenders. They'll be, top 3, top 4 team in the league like they always are.
Love it. I'm with you all the way.
McNine
is saying something funny. Jerry Jones supposed to be getting dementia. Said Micah Parsons reminds him of Lawrence Taylor. There's only one Lawrence Taylor. Don't get it twisted. Don't mess around. All right. What about the New York Jets? Justin Fields, new quarterback. You got Garrett Wilson. You got Breece Hall. You got Aaron Glenn as the new head coach, who you know a lot about.
I would almost put them in the non-offenders category. I don't even think they're a pretender. I think they're a notch below that. I'm just not confident in the Jets. I'm not confident in Justin Fields. it's going to be very interesting to see what Aaron Glenn does as a head coach as opposed to a defensive coordinator. You know, the defense is going to be pretty good. My concern is their offense. My concern is Justin Fields. Is he going to be the 4-2 guy that he was when he was with the Steelers before he got put on the bench, or is he going to be, you know, the kind of like that middle of the road guy that he was with the Bears? In all fairness, the Bears kind of dropped the ball with him a little bit. I'm sure you'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But no, I don't see the Jets being a factor at all this season. So
No,
I'm going to put them in the non-offenders.
I'm with you. The Jets are non-offenders. That's what I wrote down, because they're not contenders. They're not pretenders. They're just not ready yet. But they have to be. If they're going to be contenders, they're going to have to be a top rushing team, kill the clock kind of team, play really solid defense, because Justin Fields is not going to throw for 350 yards every week, every other week. It's not going to be the way it goes. So he's going to run the ball. Breece Hall's going to run the ball. Braylon Allen's going to run the ball. That's the way it's going to be. The Miami Dolphins, I think, are major pretenders. I don't believe in them at all. They should be better, even though when Tua plays, the offense is better, Mr. Primetime, but I just don't see their defense being able to contend with the Buffalo Bills or what even the Patriots may be able to throw at them. And if the Jets can get their rushing game together, they may have a hard time in their own division, let alone coming anywhere near a wild card.
And that's the thing, man. We talk about the formula before. You know, when you're trying to get better, am I better than the teams in my division? Am I better than the teams, you know, the 5 or 6 teams, 7 teams that are ahead of me? And my biggest concern I share with you is that the Miami defense, they'll put up points. We're not worried about that. But could this be?
And they're about to lose Jalen Ramsey.
I was gonna say that as well. So is this going to be like what the Cincinnati Bengals were last year? A team that scores a lot of points but can't stop anybody on defense. I don't see them being that bad on defense, but I don't see them being good enough to overtake the Bills and maybe the Patriots in that division. So this is that year, you know, we kind of talked about a few weeks ago that Miami may take a step back. So I'll put them in the pretenders category.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with you on that one. What about the Patriots, last team in that division?
I put them pretenders, but simply because they were kind of borderline for me, pretenders, non-offenders. But I think that's going to be like a cool team to watch on the side, you know, kind of like in the back of your mind. So I want, you know, you kind of check in on the Patriots every now and then, see how they're going to do. Mike Vrabel, new head coach, they went out and made a bunch of moves in free agency. They had a bunch of money to spend. Drake May, we're hoping that takes a step forward. But right now, they're pretenders. They're just, you know, they're still probably a player or two away from, you know, from being serious contenders.
Yeah, I think they're contenders for the playoffs, not for the Super Bowl. They're not quite there yet, but I think Mike Vrabel is going to bring in a whole new attitude over there. No knock on Gerard Mayo or anything like that, but Vrabel is an experienced, seasoned head coach. They're going to run the ball. They got Travion Henderson, who they drafted. You know, rookie running backs usually do really well in this league, especially when you're a run-oriented team. Play a lot of defense. Like you mentioned, they had a lot of moves this year that they made. Offensive line, defensive line, whether it's Morgan Moses or Milton Williams. I like the Patriots this year to take a step forward. Will they make the playoffs for sure? No, I'm not saying that, but I think that they will contend for possibly a spot, just like the Bengals will contend for a spot because they were that close last year, and the defense can't be that much worse. Al Golden comes in, all right? Lou Anarumo was out. Al Golden comes in, and I think that team now can contend for a playoff spot. And if they get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Joe Burrow, MVP candidate. Jamar Chase, maybe the best wide receiver in the league. You got T. Higgins, who could be a one on any other team, along with Chase Brown. I mean, they're going to score 30-plus points. So if the defensive scheme gets better in Cincinnati, watch out.
I mean, and yeah, you hit it right on the head. The thing is, too, Jay, has a defense been that bad in back-to-back seasons? Have you ever seen? It's been
pretty awful, yes.
I mean, but what is this? How much of their defensive improvement hinges on what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson? You know, I mean, that's going to be a big. They got to get that settled one way or the other before the season starts, in my opinion. But yeah. I do see, I see a team that was, you know, had historically one of the worst offensive lines in the league, historically one of the worst defenses. We went over kind of some deep level stuff last week as far as them being, you know, one of the only team in the NFL history that scored, you know, 33 points in 7 games and lost like 4 of them, 5 of them. That's, just
Terrible.
next level stats for Cincinnati is off the charts. We won't get into that right now, but
Yeah.
I see them turning that around. They can't be that bad just by default. Whether or not they go out, doesn't even really matter who they went out and got or drafted. Just by default, you think they'll be a better defense, because just they can't be as bad as they were last year. So I got Cincinnati on my contenders list, man.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that one. I think they're contenders too. And again, if they get into the playoffs, scoring a bunch of points, man, you got to watch out for any offense. But I think the defense automatically gets better, like you said, by default. New coordinator Al Golden. Let's go. Let's see what happens. The Browns are non-offenders, in my opinion. They have no offense to speak of. They don't know who their quarterback is going to be. Their defense is good. They're not great. They're not great enough, like, I don't know, maybe a Philadelphia, Minnesota defense or a Houston defense to be able to hold that team down. So the Browns, to me, non-offenders. We don't think they're going to be any good. They're not going to be any good. And depending on who plays quarterback, they may win 3 games. They may win 5 games. I'm not high on them at all. I see nothing.
Right. So, the difference between Shedeur and Joe Flacco is like 2 games, and either way it goes, you're treading the, you're suffering at the bottom of that division, maybe the bottom of the league. They might end up getting top 2, top 3 pick again.
Yeah, and they're going to need it also, brother. Yeah, they're really going to need it. Now, the Steelers are, look, I think if George Pickens would have stayed, maybe I would have said contenders, but they're pretenders. We've talked about them a lot in their rosters. So we're not going to go through all the Calvin Austins and Robert Woods and all the C-minus wide receivers that are there in this career. I know they have a really good defense, and we've talked about it. We toyed around with the idea, well, can they score 20, 23 points a game because Pittsburgh's defense is going to be really good? I don't know, man. To me, they're pretenders, and even if they did get into the playoffs prime, they'd be one and done.
Yeah, I agree 100%. There's not a lot there. And Aaron Rodgers, again, is this the year that the 500 streak ends for Mike Tomlin?
Does he get fired?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers was on the was it Pat McAfee?
Yeah, he's always on McAfee.
Said that this could be it. So this could be his last season. So
yeah, he basically actually did say that, Prime. He said he's like, this is my last season. He already announced his retirement before he played 1 game with the Steelers. So way to go, Rod.
You go through all that drama, and 83 days of drama just to get to, I'll play for you guys for a season, but I'm done.
For 1 year, and I'm out of here. But I don't know, maybe that's a good thing that we all finally know, because remember Brett Favre days, how he retired every 15 minutes? It was sick. It's like, are you coming back this year? Are you coming back this year? Like, shut that. Oh, my God. You got to be crazy.
Right.
But it bugged me out, man. When he went to Minnesota and he was 63 years old, I couldn't believe how well he played, man. That was unbelievable.
And he wasn't that bad with the Jets.
He really wasn't, actually.
It's like, come on. He had like 2 careers.
Look, the Jets were 8-3 at one point in that season, and then Brett Favre hurt his shoulder really bad in week 12 or 13, whatever it was, and that's when they went downhill and lost like the last 5 games of the year or whatever it was. Crazy. Otherwise, they were doing really well. So you make a good point with that. Make a point. They were contenders up until a certain point. The Ravens are
contenders. That's
course.
No brainer. Ravens are top. Like I say, top 3, top 4 team in the league. I always talk about Philly's roster, and now I'm starting to think the same thing about the Ravens in the AFC. The roster, just from top to bottom, is as solid as it gets, man. And they just keep adding pieces. Keep adding pieces. They just got Jair Alexander. They don't know what they're going to do with him. What are we going to do with Jair? But you know what? Come play with us for a season. Come on.
Yeah, have a little fun.
Right, come on. We'll figure something out. Put you on special teams. He might make the Pro Bowl as a special teamer. They're so deep on defense. I have a little bit of concern about their receiving core, but you got Lamar Jackson, you got Derrick Henry, you got a really, really good offensive line. You got John Harbaugh as a head coach, so you always got a shot.
I will say that Rashad Bateman did come along last year a lot better. It was one of his better seasons. I do like Zay Flowers. You got Mark Andrews, and he's getting a little bit older, and he did drop that pass, which made every Baltimore Raven fan absolutely sick.
That hurt me a little bit, and I'm not even a Ravens fan. That
That just makes you want to cringe. It's like, oh, God, no, you didn't just do that. You dropped that ball right there wide open.
I know Levi probably threw his remote through the TV when he saw
absolutely. Yeah, Darwin's Raven. He probably flipped the hell out. But, the Ravens are total contenders. They have stacked from top to bottom. Unlike our first AFC South team, the Titans. And by the way, speaking of the Titans, we're going to have Blaine Bishop on, former Titan. He's going to be on in a couple of weeks with us. We can't wait to talk to him. Former All-Pro. It's going to be awesome.
That's one of the greatest players in Titans history. I mean,
he was amazing.
He wasn't a stat patter, but he was as good a defensive player as there was in his day.
Yeah,
he's not going to wow you with, like I say, his stats aren't going to jump out at you, but he class act, number one. Number two, just a ferocious guy on defense, and I can't wait. We both reached out to him on Twitter, and yeah, I can't wait. But having said all that, Mr. Bishop, I'm sorry, I have the Tennessee Titans as a non-offender right now.
I'm with you all the way. I got him as non-defenders as well. Don't know what to expect from Cam Ward, and even if he plays really well, he's throwing the ball to Calvin Ridley, I guess. I mean, I don't really know. But, yeah, they don't really have much going on over there. They're non-defenders to me. I don't expect anything from them. What about the Jacksonville Jaguars?
This is like a coin flip between non-offenders and pretenders. Right now, I'm going to be honest, man, as it stands, I got the Jags as a non-offender. I don't even have them in the pretenders category. I can't. Right. There's just too many other good teams ahead of them, and everybody can't be a contender, and everybody can't be the pretender when you put them under the variables and stuff that we're trying. Yeah, the criteria that we're using for pretenders. I would have to put the Jags. They're probably just barely on the outside looking in as a non-offender into the pretender category. But right now, I just can't, in good faith, have them as a pretender.
I got to tell you, man, I don't know about faith or nothing, but I think the Jaguars might actually be contenders for the playoffs this year. I really do. I think they may possibly even challenge Houston for the top spot in the AFC South. Maybe not, but they could be playoff team. Look, weird things happen every year. They beefed up, their offense and defense a lot, and whether it was the line, receivers, getting Travis Hunter, it's another thing. But you still have Trevor Lawrence. Now, he really has not shown that he's been the number one overall pick, but I feel like the kid has it in him. We've seen flashes where he's brought his team back in the fourth quarter on several occasions. So I feel like this could be the year where they get it together with one of our boys' favorite guy in the world, Liam Cohen over here.
Liam Cohen. But yeah.
New coach, new system. Let's see.
And you know what? Now that you think about it, it is the AFC South. It's not like Houston is the world beaters. They've won double-digit games the last couple seasons, been to the playoffs, but you might be right. You might just that Trevor Lawrence kid might be able to do something this year, to kind of get them over the hump. But I wouldn't put them anywhere close to the contenders category. But
I don't blame you.
If we do something like this, 6 weeks from now or 3 games into the season, I might change my mind.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, man. Again, let's see if they get up to a hot start. Their schedule is not that difficult. Again, they play in a pretty easy division for the most part. Again, you get to play the Titans and the Colts twice a year. You should win 3 out of 4 of those games, if not all of them. Let's see what the Jaguars do, man. They don't play good against the Colts, man. They can't beat the Colts. It's the weirdest thing. It's very strange. I don't know. One of those weird. Speaking of the Colts, I think that they are non-offenders because I don't expect much out of them. And I think that with Daniel Jones, they could actually probably win 7 or 8 games. They have a decent wide receiver core with Pittman and that kid Alec Pierce. He's all right. He's pretty good in the deep balls over there. And then they got Josh Downs. Let's see if Jonathan Taylor can play some decent running back. But Daniel Jones, he's not going to wow you, and they're not going to make the playoffs or anything. So again, nothing big to expect out of them, Prime.
No, and then too, they went on and got Tyler Warren in the draft. So
that's right.
That'll give Daniel Jones a safety blanket, if nothing else. But I don't see them being a contender or a pretender. I see them as a non-offender like you. I keep saying, but there's too many other good teams ahead of them. But 7 or 8 games for the Colts with Daniel Jones potentially as your quarterback. But you and I both know, Jay, they're going to give Anthony Richardson every opportunity to get that starting quarterback job. Whether Daniel Jones outdoes him in training camp and all this or not, I still think my heart tells me that Daniel Jones he's going to end up getting the job. But my head tells me that the Colts they've in their minds probably invested too much in Anthony Richardson They believe in him too
they
much
did.
for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And they'll give him every shot to maintain his starting job.
But this is it for him. Anthony Richardson,
Yeah.
this is it. You go no further than this year. You might not be on the team, actually, after this year if you can possibly get traded or whatever it's going to be with rookie contracts and stuff like that. But Anthony Richardson, this is your last shot to show that you can be an NFL quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. Otherwise, another team may possibly take a flyer on him. We'll see. I don't know. Last team in the AFC South are the defending champions of that division, the Houston Texans. What say you?
I say they're pretenders, and that's kind of like recency bias. I love their defense. Maybe Tank Dell plays in 10 days. Like they kept saying, when he first got hurt. CJ Stroud, I won't call this a make or break year, but this is a year where he's got to prove, you got to advance in the playoffs. You got to do a little bit more than what you did last year. The problem, Jay, is that the AFC is so freaking deep.
It is.
You start listing out teams, and so let's say they win 12 games. They up it a little bit and win 12 games, which they very well could in that division. Their schedule's not that hard, but what does that get you? Does that get you a first round exit, or does that get you at least to the the divisional round? What does it do if you're the Texans? My biggest concern is what progress are we going to see CJ Stroud continue to grow, because you can make a case that he took a step back last year.
Yeah, I don't think any excuse this year when you talk about his two running backs and Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb, if he can stay healthy. You're going to rely on those guys big time. And then you got your Nico Collins, your Christian Kirk, Jaden Higgins, so they got guys to throw the ball to. And even their tight end, Dalton Schultz, as a matter of fact, he's pretty good too. But they got a really good defense, which is why I think they're definitely contenders. Like, winning the division is one thing, but going and moving further into playoffs is another. They beat the Chargers last year in the first round. Let's see if they can get further than that this year. I mean, you got Will Anderson, you got Daniel Hunter, who is incredibly good, and is secretly, not a lot of people know, he's one of the highest paid defenders in the league. He makes $35,000 a year. He is. He makes.
That's why the Lions. That's why the Lions passed on him when he was available and all that, because they knew he'd end up being one of the, and they didn't. The Lions traditionally don't like to pay their defensive players a whole lot of money. So, but he would have been great alongside or on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson.
Yep, makes a ton of them. Derek Stingley Jr. on that team, obviously. Yeah,
they got some good guys, man.
They got a lot of good players, man. I'm telling you, no doubt about it. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm sure we both agree, are contenders, so no reason to spend a lot of time on it. They got Mahomes, they got Andy Reid, Rashee Rice is coming back. They have plenty of weapons, and their defense constantly is underrated front.
They are, and their defense bailed them out of a whole bunch of games last year. When you win that many one-possession games, Kansas City, I think that was probably one of their worst scoring years under Andy Reid on offense. Sure. So their defense has carried them outside of the Super Bowl, obviously. But yeah, there's really no need to elaborate on that a lot. You got Andy Reid, got Mahomes, Travis Kelce, swan song potentially.
Yeah.
I think he tries to go out with a bang, but yeah, they're still the team to beat in the AFC until somebody comes along and knocks them off.
Well, the next team is an interesting one. A lot of people think that this team can come along and knock them off, and that would be the LA Chargers. Are they contenders, pretenders, or non-offenders in your mind?
I went back and forth on this one, man, but I had to, for now, I had to put them in the pretenders category because I didn't want to water down my contenders side of things. But, you can't have like 10 teams as contenders, in my opinion. That kind of waters it down a little bit, although I look at the list now and I'm damn close. but
I know.
But I would put the Chargers right there, man. The Chargers are like right there, and going to the playoffs, Justin Herbert taking another step forward with John Harbaugh. They had a good draft. They're always going to be good on defense. They're always going to run the ball well.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert a lot of people, this is like a put up or shut up year for him, in some people's minds. But I like the Chargers because I'm a big Jim Harbaugh fan, and then of course I feel about my Oregon quarterbacks. But I think being in that division's tough. But right now they're like right on the fence. I literally have like a line, and I have them straddling the line. I wrote Chargers and they're like on both sides of the line right now. Like the
Well, you got like
CHAR,
CHR,
yeah, and then the TR is on the other side. So that was probably the hardest team for me to pick as we're going through this.
All right, well, I went the other side with the Chargers because Jim Harbaugh keeps getting better wherever he goes and wins, just keeps on winning and winning. Not always the Super Bowl, obviously, but has got there, and I think he can get there again. They don't turn the ball over. Justin Herbert last year, speaking of him, he only had 3 interceptions the entire year. Now, he didn't blow up passing-wise, but that's because they ran more of a conservative offense. And with Omari and Hampton, who they drafted, and Najee Harris, you expect them to run the ball. But you do have Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson, who we've mentioned before, guys who can step up and play. And Justin Herbert, man, he's one of the top quarterbacks around. He really is, and he gets paid to do so. So I definitely got the Chargers in the contender category. I think that, again, the running and the defense and the coaching, plus the extremely intelligent quarterback who's got extreme athletic ability, how do you not go with them for contenders, in my opinion? So I got to go Chargers right there, bro. For contenders, the Raiders. Well, now they got Geno Smith. We mentioned Ash Genti, Pete Carroll's in house. Does that make a difference to you? Do you think that they're contenders, pretenders, non-offenders?
No, I think they're non-offenders. They're the victim of being probably outside of one of the strongest. I'm thinking about one of the strongest divisions in football right now, with the Chargers on the climb, the Chiefs at the top of the hill, and the final team we'll talk about in a second here. I don't think that Geno Smith and Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll just was kind of bored and just wanted something to do.
Maybe
if he was really serious about winning, he probably wouldn't have went to the Raiders. They don't have a lot going on. Their defense is pretty good, I guess. Still got Max Crosby. Their offensive line, kind of hit or miss at times. But I don't see the Raiders at all making any serious noise in the AFC, let alone their own division.
Yeah, you see, the Raiders think they're going to be good, so I got them as pretenders.
They're like the Cowboys of the AFC. We're going to be great every year.
They are just pretenders, in my opinion, all the way. I'm not a big believer in Geno Smith. You mentioned that. I know they got Ash Genti, and they may do a couple of things on offense here and there, but they don't have a good wide receiving core. Their best receiver is their tight end, Brock Bowers, and not a knock. I mean, he's great.
Man.
Yeah, he's great. But their defense, sorry about that. But this next team's defense, who was mentioned before by McNiner, I believe it was, the Broncos, man. What about the Denver Broncos? Contenders, pretenders. They made the playoffs last year, got knocked out in the first round by Buffalo. What do you think?
You know what? I'm gonna change my answer with the Chargers. I'm gonna categorize them and the Broncos both as contenders.
Okay.
I actually picked the Chargers last year because now I'm thinking about it back to my pick. That's why I changed my mind on the Chargers. Sorry, people. I actually picked them to win the division last year, the Chargers.
All right.
So.
Oh, they had a good year.
Yeah, so the Broncos, like number 2, number 3 defense in the entire league. Bo Nix, another one of my Oregon quarterbacks. They had a decent draft. I like the Broncos. Sean Payton, another really good coach. One of the best we've seen in recent memory. Bo Nix is going to take another step forward. Steve-O says the Chargers are 2 years away from being 2 years away. I love it. But no, I like the Broncos as a contender, but it's going to be tough, man, simply because they're both looking up at the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
Everybody's looking up at Kansas City Chiefs. They still were the number 1 seed last year and went to the Super Bowl. I know they got their ass kicked, but that's another thing. Steve-O don't like the Chargers over there. Chargers 2 years away from being 2 years away.
That is hilarious.
No love for Jim Harbaugh and his scheme over there. I don't know. Watch out. I'm calling it right now. The Chargers are going to be deep into the playoffs. How deep? I'll tell you at a later time. We'll see how far they do go. But the Broncos, honestly, I'm sorry. I'm calling them pretenders. I know they got the coach. I know they got a really good a good quarterback. Let's see how good he really is. Their defense, yes, they are stacked. They're awesome. Their secondary is ridiculous, led by Patrick Surtain. But I don't know where the points are going to come from. I don't know how they're going to score. R.J. Harvey, rookie running back, I don't know what we're going to get out of him. You got Marvin Mims and freaking Cortland Sutton. Like, nobody's scared of that sort of stuff. You bring in Evan Ingram. Okay, I mean, maybe that can help out a little bit. But to me, Denver, they're going to be a good team. But they're pretenders as far as thinking that they can contend for a championship and their fans being completely diluted by that because they're a mile high above freaking sea level and their brains are all fogged up by the crap that's going on in the atmosphere over there. Not going to happen.
the first states to legalize marijuana. So yeah, they're always under the influence of something. So, wait a minute. So just to get this right, you're telling me that Mims and Sutton aren't like Bolden and Fitzgerald? Nobody, they don't strike. Oh, okay.
Not to quite.
Man, I need to rewrite my whole predictions for the upcoming season.
Yeah, man. I guess we're gonna have to fix that shit up, man. Yeah, I mean, too bad Jerry Jeudy left because he's a total stud. Even they had a couple of good games in Cleveland, so what the hell with no quarterback, total shocker right there. He killed me on a couple of prop bets last year. In the first quarter, he overdid one prop bet. I wanted to break the damn television, but that's another story.
Who, Jerry Jeudy?
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy. He had like 60
my Lord.
yards in the first quarter. I had him like under 65. I'm like, you little son of a bitch that you are. I'm so
it's funny too, real quick. That was one of the selling points that they tried to use when they were persuading Sean Payton to come to Denver was that, hey, we got Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah,
so I'm sure that's what got him out of his chair and out of that the announcing booth or the analyst table. Say, you know what, you got Jerry Jeudy. Count me in, baby. Jesus, Mary.
Worked out great. Oh, God. All right, that was the last AFC team. We're going to go a little bit quicker through the NFC teams over here, given the time. The Eagles are obviously contenders because they won the freaking Super Bowl, bringing a lot of players back, but maybe a little bit weaker on defense. Prime, no Josh Sweat, no Milton Williams. Let's see if they can make up for it in the secondary and some younger players coming in, along with Jalen Carter on the line.
Yeah, I kind of thought that they would be more in the mix for a guy like Jair Alexander, but they chose not to. They chose to kind of roll with the guys that they got. Had a couple really good draft picks. But yeah, there's no doubt. And like I said, I say it every week, the Eagles have probably the overall best roster in the league. They did kind of fall off a little bit on defense, but I don't think they fell off enough to fall out of the top 2-3 teams, in the league, in my opinion. I think they got a strong possibility of being the first team to win that division of 14 years, 15 years, 20 years, something like that. 21 years.
Yeah. All right, there you go. That's a possibility.
Connor Stallion.
The team that could take it from them, possibly a lot of people think, are the Commanders. So the team from Washington, the former football team, the former Redskins, are they contenders or pretenders?
I got them as contenders simply because they're not going to win 12 games again, because I think just by proxy, I think Dallas is going to get a little better. I think the Giants are going to be a little bit better with Russell Wilson as quarterback. I still think that they're probably one of the top 5 teams in the NFC. If I wanted to kind of stretch it out a little bit like that. Yeah, I like them. And we I don't. But the McLaurin situation that you touched on at the beginning of the show, that's going to factor in a lot, because if there's holdout, which I don't think it will, but if it extends into the season, that's going to hurt.
I think they're going to need him, obviously, if they're going to do anything. But I think that they do take a step back this year. I think that Vegas knows what they're talking about. When they were a 12-win team last year and they have them at over/under 8.5 this year, I tend to agree with them. I don't love their defense, even though I do like Dan Quinn and his scheme. It does seem to work out pretty well. It's been good everywhere he has gone. But the offense, look, they didn't score a ton of points in a lot of games last year. There were certain games against the Eagles where they put up 30 points. I get that. But when you play the Bears at home and you only score 12 points, I got to scratch my head a little bit. So there's been some inconsistencies there. So I don't love the Commanders, and I think they're pretenders. I think they're a team that everybody is high on, but they're going to get let down because they may be one and done in the playoffs if they even make it there. There's a possibility they won't, and we're going to get closer to that when we make our predictions, buddy. How about the Dallas Cowboys, man? Dallas Cowboys, bringing in George Pickens. We talked about the Dak Prescotts and the Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, one of the best wide receivers in the league. They didn't have a good year last year, in large part due to Dak Prescott being out and other players getting hurt. Do they have a bounce-back year?
My question to you, Mr. Prophet, is who the hell's going to run the ball for the Cowboys?
That's a great question. I forgot what that damn rookie's name is who they drafted, but they have Javonte Williams, so they're probably going to start with him. Anything.
I don't know. I still think the Cowboys right now, I'd probably put them in the pretenders category. I need to see, because you can throw the ball. They need consistency in their running game. And I think you need a little bit more than Micah Parsons on defense to really make a difference, especially in the NFC, which is kind of, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. The NFC right now is as deep as it's been in a long time. But I can see a world where the Commanders have a better record than them. But I also see a world, because it is the Cowboys and Dak Prescott, if you're a Cowboys fan, hopefully won't get hurt. I can also see a world where they win 12 games and possibly win that division. But right now, I'll probably have them just as pretenders, because I want them, in my mind, they got to earn that spot. And plus, I can't be too high on the Cowboys because I'm a Giants fan. So
you're a Giants fan.
I can't give them too much love.
So you're totally biased in this situation. I get it.
Totally.
No, I'm
totally
disagree with. I'm going to disagree with you again. I think that the Cowboys are contenders this year. I really do. I think getting George Pickens was a big move. It's going to help CeeDee Lamb out a lot. He's not going to be as double teamed anymore. If they do have a shell defense, there's ways to get around that stuff. Brian Schottenheimer knows how to run an offense, so I do have confidence in that. Jake Ferguson's another good player that they have over there. You got all the Tylers on offense, on the offensive line. Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker, who they drafted and all that. But you also got Osa Odighizowe and Micah Parsons, and Kenneth Murray is there, and Trayvon Diggs, who I think is hurt. I don't know if he's going to be ready to go. Malik Hooker is a good player. I like the Dallas Cowboys this year, and people are kind of high on Brian Schottenheimer. So I'm going to put the Cowboys as contenders, my friend. I think that they are there. Unlike your team, the Giants, who I didn't put as contenders or pretenders. They're just non-offenders, because all I'm looking forward to is seeing when Jackson Dart will play and how good he's going to be. And if him and Malik Neighbors are going to be the new 1-2 duo in the entire league.
Oh, my God. That's funny. I have them as non-offenders as well. We talked about it last week about when did we think Russell Wilson was going to lose his job to Jackson Dart. And it's funny how we're just like glazing over Jameis Winston in this whole scenario here.
Of course.
They're not even talking about him, really. I follow a lot of like the Giants football reports and stuff like that. And they're not really even talking about Jameis. They're talking about how high they are right now on Jackson Dart. So I said maybe week 10, 12, the way they're talking, I mean, if one wrong move by Russell Wilson and Jackson Dart could be starting the season for the New York Giants. But either way it goes, I don't see them winning more. If they win 7-8 games, I will be elated considering what they've been the last few years, but I still don't see them being contenders or pretenders.
Right. So I'm with you on the non-offender thing. As far as the Chicago Bears go, all right, some people are high on them. We talked about them a little bit before during, our Curious Questions segment. What do you think about the Chicago Bears?
I told you, I say it every week, their roster scares me potentially. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Their roster offensively has the potential to be the most explosive offense in the league. It's all going to fall on Caleb Williams. It's all going to fall on his progression. It's all going to fall on how quick he picks up Ben Johnson's offense, because the weapons are there. The defense is there. Everything is laid out. The red carpet is rolled out for this young man and that team and organization to have a really, really good season. So if they botch it, it's not because of lack of trying. It's simply because it's going to be an execution thing. And I think as a Lions fan, like I said, that the Bears kind of make me a little bit nervous. I know there's a lot of people say, oh, no. When you look at that Lions schedule already without the division opponents, and then you factor in how good the Bears could be potentially, I got the Bears as pretenders, but they could work their way into the contenders category, week 10, week 11 into the season.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the other teams that they're going to have to play twice in that division, Lions, Packers, and Vikings, coming up here in a second. And that's why I think the Bears are pretenders, because I don't even think that they're the first, second, or third best team in their division. Maybe they fight it out with the Packers, in my opinion, for third, but that's not going to get you to where you want to go. The Vikings, in my opinion, I know J.J. McCarthy, we haven't seen him yet, but I'm a believer in it, and I definitely believe in the Lions. There's no doubt about it. If they can stay healthy, no question they're going to be contenders this year, which brings me right to them. The Lions are contenders. Look, I know that they don't have Aaron Glenn. I know they don't have Ben Johnson anymore, but they have the players that have been there and know what they're doing. And Dan Campbell, their head coach, is still there. So you as a Detroit Lion, my friend, you're in really good shape. The Lions are absolute contenders.
Yeah, I think so too. And I've said this before. A lot of people forget. Yes, Ben Johnson ran the offense and called the plays, but that offense is a product of Dan Campbell. That is Dan Campbell's offense. It is not Ben Johnson's offense. That's Dan Campbell's offense. Ben
Tell
Johnson
him.
was good at sequentially calling the plays and called them at the right time in the set, but that's Dan Campbell's offense. So I don't think they're going to lose a lot on offense. My biggest concern every year, it seems like going into the Lions, they end up with like 75 defensive backs at the beginning of the season, and then the guys just fall off and get hurt one by one by one. You know, a couple years ago, it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Every time you seen him, he was reaching at somebody's jersey because they were blowing past him. You know, Emmanuel or Mosley. They've had a lot of guys go through that, but I'm hoping that this is the year that Terry and Arnold could step up to at least solidify one field. I love their linebacking core. The biggest thing right now up here that everybody's talking about with the Lions is edge rusher. I know Cleveland let a guy go, and so they're looking at that. They may bring back Zadarius Smith to go along with Aiden Hutchinson, but the Lions' defensive line, there's a weak spot on this team right now. It's their D-line.
Yep. All right. Let's see if they get Smith back this year. All right. A couple more teams in that division. The Packers. I told you, bro. I don't believe in Jordan Love. I don't love him. I don't like him. Jordan, you're not my guy. I just don't see it.
I don't like him. No love for love.
Sorry, I don't love him. I don't love you, Jordan. It's not my thing over here. I don't know what to tell you, bro. But anyway, I know that you brought in Matthew Golden. Let's see if he does hit with that young wide receiver core. I like Josh Jacobs, no doubt about it. And they have a pretty decent defense, but not a defense that really scares you. Again, in that division, I think it's going to be too tough. I think again, between them and the Bears, they're going to fight it out for third and fourth place. So I'm not big on the Packers, bro. I'm calling them pretenders. Even though they made the playoffs the past couple of years, this year, I'm telling you right now, I know I'm giving it away already, my predictions. Packers not in the playoffs this year, not making it.
And I can roll with that. And I know I'm not high on Jordan Love, but I just kind of give him his props because of what he's done his first couple years as a starter. He's already been more successful than some guys that have been in the league longer. However, I'm not high on the Vikings like you are. So my 1, 2, 3, 4, I got the Bears finishing second in that division. I got I actually have the Vikings finishing last in that division.
Really?
I know you're very, very high on them, and a lot of that's going to have to do with JJ McCarthy. But yeah, the Pack, I have them as total pretenders right now.
All right, I think you're eating too many of them gummies talking about the Vikings.
hey! Now, the only gummies I eat is gummy lifesavers. Those are pretty awesome.
Yes, they are.
Gummy Jolly Ranchers too hit the spot.
Keep being a kid, baby. Eat that candy. It's Halloween every single day, baby. All right, but yeah, I like the Vikings, man. I know you don't love them, so you're calling them pretenders or non-offenders or whatever the hell they are to you, but I like McCarthy. A lot of it does hinge on him. The only thing about the Vikings that I'm a little bit nervous about if I were them is their secondary. You're led by Byron Murphy Jr. back there, but I think that the way that Brian Flores coaches kind of covers up some of the secondary's mishaps. So I like him on offense. I like him on defense. Kevin O'Connell, awesome head coach, great for quarterbacks. I think it's really going to work out. So I do like the Vikings.
It's the JJ. It's the two biggest factors in that division. The two biggest question marks are, that are going to separate whether a team wins 6 games or 10, 11 games is the quarterback. You're talking about the Bears and the Vikings.
True.
I don't know. Coming off an injury like that for JJ McCarthy, first year starting, really kind of getting accustomed to the NFL. You got all the weapons and stuff around you. I just don't see them being the team that they were last year with JJ McCarthy. That's kind of why I got them finishing last in the division.
I smell a side bet coming. Me and you were going to happen. We're doing it. We're doing it. I'm taking Vikings in double-digit wins. You're not.
Wow!
Like
oh, we got a better. What's your favorite steak place down there? I'll DoorDash you some Taco Bell or something. Some Maggiano's or something like that.
I want Tijuana Flats. That's the good stuff. I get a steak taco, man. That's what I want right there.
Oh, okay.
I mix it in. I mix your taco in with my steak taco. Bada bing, bada boom.
There you go. Forget about it.
All right, Buccaneers. Their linemen have been stuck in their face with tacos all season, man. But now they got to get into better shape over here, and I think they will. The offense will score a lot of points, man. Baker Mayfield showing that he is one of the dudes, and he's going to get paid some money sometime soon, man. He really is. Baker doing his thing over there. He's got his plays around. The Mike Evans back, all those guys. They're contenders, especially in that division. I don't like any of them other teams, even though I think Carolina is ascending. Not sold on the Falcons. We'll get to it, yada, yada. But the Bucs, contenders, they can play ball, man. They are a good team.
Yeah, the Bucs scared me in the playoffs. At Lions, when the Lions played them last year, they kind of got me a little nervous. Or the year before, they got me a little nervous.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Bucky Irving. You got a really solid defense. No Liam Cohen.
Nope.
No Liam Cohen. But I still think, the Baker effect is real. And just by default, because the other teams in that division are so bad, I'm not sold on the Falcons at all either. So I got the Bucs as contenders simply because they're going to Bucs might win 12 games this year.
They could. They could. Again, that division, they can sweep the division. Again, they don't have a schedule in front of me right now, but again, they can score with anybody. So if their defense is playing even mediocre, they're going to win double-digit games, man. I'm totally with you on that one. But I don't know. You mentioned the Falcons, man. You said you're not sold on them. So are they the contenders?
I got them as non-offenders.
All right.
I don't see them being a factor at all. I don't see Michael Penix. I didn't like Michael Penix in college. I was a little bit when he played with Indiana, kind of made me nervous against Michigan a little bit. But when he went to Washington, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're throwing the two, Quentin Johnson and Roma Dunze, and okay, yeah. And you had a really good offensive-minded head coach, Kalen DeBoer. But I also think that they're underutilizing Kyle Pitts. I don't know if that's going to change, but that Michael Penix takes a step enough forward for them to even make any noise in that division. So I got them as non-offenders.
That's my thing. I'm not sold on Michael Penix. I'm not sold on that offensive coaching staff. Raheem Morris more on the defensive side, and they have done well on defense, actually, but they're not going to be putting up points. I don't see it happening, even though they do have guys. They got Bijan Robinson. Drake London definitely had a better year last year, and you expect more out of Kyle Pitts, but I just don't know if Michael Penix is the guy, man. All right, we'll wait and see. We got a couple more teams in that division to get to. One would be the Panthers, who I think are definitely ascending, but I'm going to call them non-offenders right now because they're not pretenders and they're not contenders. They're just going to get better. And I feel like in 2 years, maybe even next year, the year after 2025, in 2026, we may be saying Carolina is a wild card team, but not yet.
I can see that realistically. I can see that, but my biggest concern with them is their receiving core, and they drafted
Ted McMillan, and they got Xavier legit.
So that they might. So I think Ted McMillan, just from a size standpoint, is going to make a big difference. But I think consistency. I still think that Bryce Young, for what it was, for what he did the second half of last season after the benching, is very commendable, but I still think he's got a little bit of room to grow, and I still think, like you said, there may be a year or two. To quote Steve-O, they're probably 2 years away from being 2 years away, but I do see a world where the next year, maybe year after, where we're talking about Carolina's wild card. But right now, they're not even close to being a wild card team, and that division is all about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's just too many other teams ahead of them to kind of break into that top 7, top 8 for a playoff spot.
All right, last team in the NFC South, and then we'll finish it out with the NFC West. Over here, we have the New Orleans Saints, who I have a whole new category. Won't remember. Like, who gives a shit?
You know what? Here, I'm going to write that down. WR no longer stands for wide receiver, and it stands for won't remember. Write that down on 626. And this is and then what's New Orleans initials? NO. Yeah, it's just not. They're a mess. They're probably outside of the Browns, and this is tough to say. Outside of the Browns, they might be the worst organization in the league, considering a team that's that bad, that much over the cap. You got no talent to speak of at all. You're going in, your quarterback retired on you. You're going into the season with a new head coach. I am just not sold. WR. We will WR this season for the Saints. We won't remember this.
No, we will not remember what goes on unless shove, push
come to. Hey, there you go. Here's a T-shirt for you, Jay. Push come to shove.
Yeah, right. Push come to shock.
There you
go. Love it. What about my 49ers, man? All right, so some people are actually high on them. Vegas higher on them at 10.5 overall wins.
Jeez, that's crazy.
Over under. I'm surprised by that, man. I did not see that one coming, but good organization. If you got a healthy running back in Christian McCaffrey, they could do a lot of things, but is it going to be healthy? And you're going to get what out of Brock Purdy? The defense lost a lot of players, man. What do you think?
I don't know. I think the biggest thing everybody's going to be watching for is if Brock Purdy is worth all the money that you guys paid him.
He's not. I'll just tell you that right now.
And I think that's a factor of the salary cap going up over the next every year 15-20 million bucks like it does. If the salary cap probably stayed the same or they didn't have the big gain, they probably wouldn't have paid him that much. I have them right now. Honestly, I have them on the borderline contender, but I'm gonna put them as a pretender, and I'm just basing that off of last year. I think they'll still contend for the division. I still think they're not going to be as bad as they were last year, but I don't see them getting that magic back, man, that they've had the last couple years prior to last year, where this was basically a Super Bowl contender team. You guys have just lost way too much.
Yeah, look, the only thing is I could say is, we have a pretty decently easy schedule, but that's relative to last year. Things do change.
That's not fair.
No, it's not fair because things change.
Guys.
You're absolutely right. From year to year, things change. So I don't really go by that whole schedule thing. And, that they were last in the division. They only won 6 games last year, 6-11. I mean, God's sake, even the Cardinals and Seahawks are better than us.
Right.
Can't let shit like that happen. You can't let the Arizona Cardinals be better than you, for God's sake. Oh, man. We'll get to them in a minute. But the LA Rams, I think they're total contenders. If Matt Stafford stays healthy, with Devontae Adams over there and Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams, you got that whole defense of crop of young kids led by Jared Verse and Fisk and all those guys.
That's your guy.
Allen.
You called it.
It's amazing how early I called that. I called that like a month after the draft. I'm like, this
That's
guy's
crazy.
Gonna be the player of the year, or a rookie player of the year. But I love the Rams, man, and they are really well coached. And we saw how well they played against Philadelphia in that playoff game. The Rams are 100% contenders, bro, in my opinion.
And they smoked. The people forget about that Bills game. That
was a high-scoring game.
Oh my God! I've said it every week since the beginning of our existence together. The Rams, to me, are going to be probably the biggest headache for every other team that's ahead of them, and there's not that many in the NFC. They're going to win that division going away, and I think they are serious contenders. But you hit the nail right on the head. It's all contingent upon Matthew Stafford staying healthy, and if he doesn't, you best believe that Sean McVay will be picking up that phone, calling down to the ATL to see what it's going to take for them to get Kirk Cousins, because they don't want to blow what they have this year. And I think they're going all in. I think that was one of the reasons why they brought Devontae Adams in. I think they're going to go all in. I think they feel that with Philly's run maybe coming to an end, which is not guaranteed, I think they see a little possibility of the Lions maybe not being as good because of the schedule. I think the Rams right now think that they have the NFC right where they want them, and it's going to be very, very difficult to beat that team. The biggest game, one of the biggest games of the season, is going to be the Lions at LA Rams, and that's going to be must-see TV. But yeah, I got the Rams, super-duper contenders.
We're all going to be looking forward to that one, no doubt about it. I got to go back to Steve-O for a second and going back to the Niners. Saying a buddy of his, Matty, from East Coast, Red and Gold Pod, is selling his San Francisco tickets for his son's liver transplant.
Oh, man.
Wow. How about that? Interesting. $200 each. If anybody wants them out there, section, what is it, 125, row 33? And you can even, it sounds like a donate, help out.
Is that home side or visitor side, Steve-O? That's a nice deal. You can't touch a 125 row or 125 section ticket up here with the Lions. Can't do it. Not for $200.
That's pretty good,
3 times that much.
Go get that. And look at McNiner hopping in over here with some Rams joy. All right, so hold up. The Rams have Jimmy Richard Garoppolo. I love how he threw the middle name in there. Purdy just wins games. Yeah, he does win games, but he's sitting on the bench to win these games probably.
That's
James
Richard
I am so tired of
He doesn't look like a Richard. He looks like a
Jimmy.
He looks like James. James Richard. I did not know.
Man, did he drive me crazy? I could go on forever about him. He drove me absolutely freaking nuts, bro. Totally nuts.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know
Where's
where
Matt Castle when you need him?
Wait, Matt Castle, my God. Jeez. Almost $350 a month a month ago. Wow, Steve-O. So, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. $200 for that $350 ticket. Go grab it, man.
That's a hell of a deal.
On the pod, grab that shit.
That's sad that he's got to sell them for the reason he's selling them, though.
That's upsetting.
That's kind of sucks.
We wish you all the best.
Absolutely.
We 100%. All right, we got a couple teams left here, Prime, and then we're going to get on out of here. Both got to wake up early for work the next day. We got the Cardinals. I don't really know what category to put them in. Pretenders or non-offender. They're not contenders to me. They're borderline pretender, non-offender, because I don't expect much out of them, but I can see them winning 7 or 8 games. You think they would improve, but at some point you also got to look at Kyler Murray and say, dude, are you ever going to get it done for us? And I think the answer is no.
I agree with you. We talked about it last week or the week before. Is there any team that is one of the most every year? It's like, okay, let's watch and wait and see what we're going to get from these guys. Like the car, some people forget that they're even in the league, and then when you remember they're in the league, it's like, yeah, but they ain't done shit since Kurt Warner.
For real.
So so it's like, yeah, they're definitely. I got them in the non-offender category. I can't see them winning more than 7 or 8 games. Kyler Murray, not worth the money he's being paid. He's decent. He's a good quarterback. I'm not going to take it away from him, but there's just something about it. I don't know if it's because he's a little guy, or he likes to play video games and watch game film. I don't know. Yeah. I wasn't there, but I can't put any faith at all into the Arizona Cardinals.
Nah, neither can I, man. Neither can I. And Seattle is another one of those teams where I'm not sure I can put faith in because I don't know about Sam Darnold, man. And I don't know about Jalen Milroe either, if he's going to come in and be great or anything. But they do have a really good defense, and they do have offensive weapons. We talked before about Walker and Charbonnet and then JSN and Cooper Kupp. What you're going to get out of him, we'll see. But they have the weapons, but I just don't like Sam Darnold. So I'm not sure how good they're going to be. And it's confusing. I look, 10 games, I think, is too much. Maybe 9 wins, but does that get you in the playoffs? Probably not.
No, and there's a radio host up here that always says never bet on a ginger, especially in big games. So I can't.
Head, man.
Yeah, I can't put any faith at all into the Seahawks. The only time
they have a shitty offensive line. They have
good. And then there's that. So I think the only time the Seahawks really make me nervous is for whatever reason they put their best foot forward when they play the Lions. They've had some great games against the Lions. No defense in those games at all. It's like 72-71 every time they play each other. But I'm of the concern is that how long can they keep meandering along like this before you're kind of like the Cardinals. You just kind of just plodding along, just kind of existing before you make that one big jump, because Seattle really hasn't, even in their better seasons, Seattle really hasn't been any good or anything significant in a long time.
No, it's been a long time, very long time. Yeah, at least a good 12 years since they've been anything. Their last Super Bowl probably run, with the Legion of Boom over there, whatever the hell they were talking about. But yeah, some good news for Todd Bowles, actually. Him and Jason both got extensions, so congratulations to them. I love seeing that for Todd Bowles. Great guy, got a raw deal with the New York Jets, but making up for it in Tampa, 3 straight division wins for him, so that's good stuff.
But here's my thing with Todd Bowles, and I got that kind of in my notes for some news, but he's 1-3 in the playoffs. He's got like a 27-24 record. He's 28-27, including the playoffs. So Tampa Bay must just, they must have decided that, we want to stop the coaching carousel. We want to kind of get, solidify this to keep something going long term, especially as long as they got Baker Mayfield. I think they're kind of tied at the hip there. And Jason Lick, very well deserved. But I think this is a year where if Tampa doesn't make a deep run in the playoffs, I could see them maybe reconsidering that extension. Fire him after this season, of course, because they just extended him. So I could see a scenario where Todd Bowles is let go before this extension is before it expires.
That would be interesting. All right, we'll see. I don't know. I think that one thing that got him to stay there with that organization and get that extension was the fact that the players love him. They absolutely love him. And ownership does talk to leadership on that team. Guys like, Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and, Levante David and Devon White and players like that. And, do you like, Todd Bowles, is he the right guy for this team? And they're all like, hell freaking yeah, he is. So, you know what? He got his extension, and I'm happy for him. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
I forgot one thing before we go. I did forget my trivia question, so I am going to ask it to you real quick, all right?
Uh-oh.
Real quick. And then we got to go because we both got to wake up early. It's Friday tomorrow. We got to make sure we end the week on a good note, right?
Right.
All right. Here we go. Tom Brady holds the top 2 spots for most yards thrown in a Super Bowl. Which quarterback holds the 3rd and the 4th spot? So Brady's got the top 2.
Oh,
which quarterback has the 3rd and the 4th?
Ugh.
Most yards thrown in a Super Bowl. So obviously it's been a guy who's been there at least twice.
So you're saying it's an individual game. He's just got the 3rd most yards in a game.
In an individual game.
In an
3rd
individual
and
game.
4th. 3rd and 4th. Same guy.
I'm going to go one of your guys. I'm going to go Steve Young. And I'm going to go... Oh.
No. It's only one guy.
Oh, it's one guy has 3 and 4?
One guy has 3 and 4. So again, this quarterback had to have played in 2 Super Bowls. So not Steve Young.
No. Well, then the only... Elway, maybe. Nah. Is it? Do I dare say Eli Manning?
Ooh.
Do I dare? You know what? I dare. I'm probably wrong. It's probably Kurt Warner. But
it's Kurt Warner. The guy who started for Eli. Eli the backup.
It was good. I said Eli is a...
I'm going to give you credit for that anyway. You went with Eli with the heart. Kurt Warner was on the mind.
Wow. That's great. Yeah.
I'm going to give you credit for that one. That's pretty good.
I appreciate it. I'm on a roll. That's 3 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, man, you're doing good. You're doing good. And I'm not giving you layup questions over here. These are decent questions, man. So well done. All right.
Go.
Well, I had fun. Contenders, Pretenders. Like we told you guys last week, we didn't know what we were going to do this week. We don't know what we're going to do next week. But the week after that, like we said, we got Blaine Bishop coming on, former Houston Oiler and Tennessee Titan, as a matter of fact. Can't wait to have Blaine Bishop on in a couple of weeks. And we're going to start breaking down division by division by division by division every week, along with other good stuff. You guys jumping in, appreciate it. Steve-O, McNiner, all you guys are freaking great. We appreciate everything. And check us out on the podcast every Thursday night. We are live at 8 o'clock Eastern. Check us out on Twitter or LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever. Look for Power 32 Podcast. That's where we're at. You'll find us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Prime, great show, man. Had a lot of fun doing it.
Number love, baby. Can't wait till next week.
All right, next week we'll see you. Same time, same channel, baby. Peace.